60 Minutes, 42-minute show on CBS had once again dedicated a segment to electric cars, but this time it had nothing to do with Elon Musk. As a matter of fact, it had everything to do with what I think is taken over for Elon Musk. So let me tell you what they talked about, what was featured, and of course, what does it mean for our community? And of course, we're going to break it down into positives and negatives. All of this is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric!
Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, boom, there's a subscribe button down there. It's free, and that way you won't miss anything moving forward. All right, so as you know, 60 Minutes is sort of a, what do you call it, a TV magazine that kind of features pretty big stories. It's been around for, I think, decades. They recently ran a story for the second or even third time on Elon Musk, but this time they ran a story that was about the development and the increased number of electric cars and electric car companies in China. You know how China is possibly becoming the leader. I believe they already are. And they heavily featured NIO, as you know, the company that I've really been digging. They've premiered on New York Stock Exchange last year. It looks like they will be crossing over to the North American market and to European markets, and I'm really excited about them. This ES8 now sold over 10,000 cars in China in last year. So these cars are already on the road. Some people call it a Tesla killer. I think it's obviously silly at this point. A lot of people believe this car reminds them of Tesla. I don't see how. I actually think it reminds me of many other cars that are coming on the market. But nevertheless, they've been kind of leaders in this, and they have been pushing forward. There are quite a few different technologies that I like. But the segment was how there are quite a few of them. There are quite a few startups and quite a few legacy manufacturers that are making a lot of electric cars. Obviously, BYD. People don't know that BYD and Bike. These are the manufacturers that sell more electric cars than anybody in the world. Granted, most of them are plug-in hybrids, but nevertheless, we've never heard of these companies, but they are making a lot of cars. It's projected that this year in China they will sell over 1 million electric cars. That market is definitely heating up. I was there last year where I was visiting the factories of Byte. And now, by the way, when I talk about Chinese manufacturers, I mean the manufacturers who actually not just make cars in China, but also just sell them in China. None of them was able to cross to United States or Europe, but it looks like it's the Chinese electric car manufacturers, or at least manufacturers that are really pushing the electric car technology, are going to be successful, or at least going to give it a shot and cross the ocean into Europe and the United States. Now they've been, again, I've been a fan of NIO for a while, and the segment was concentrating on the fact that it is the technology is the company that kind of been created from scratch, and how they are enticing people to buy this car, not just because it's an electric car, but it's also just better, and because they're kind of creating their own little community. They, if you looked at the 60-minute overtime segment, it was basically about new houses, I believe, where they're kind of like lounges where you can come in if you're either already placed an order, or you're the owner of NIO, and it's kind of a community. You can meet friends there, and they offer, like, I think it was like flower arranging classes there and stuff like that. So they really are creating community, much like Tesla, right? Any supercharger location is sort of a Tesla fan club meeting every time. And I mean, it's been amazing. So I think they also understand that building a community around it is really cool. Now, the segment again was definitely heavily featuring NIO, but it was really about how China is becoming a leader in electrification, and it might be that they will make a huge step forward, where the United States and European countries may just not be able to catch up. It does come from their government, like, for example, with electric cars in the United States, it definitely comes from Tesla, and in Europe it definitely comes from Tesla. Obviously, there are government incentives and stuff like that. But in China, it's all about Chinese government. As you know, they now have, you're required, if you're selling cars in China, I believe 10% of your fleet supposed to be in some way electrified, and they're going to be raising it, I believe, to 12 and so forth. They have one of the best incentives in the world, up to $10,000 off your car. I believe in Shanghai, where it costs about $10,000 to $12,000 to even receive the license plate for your car. That fee is waived if you buy an electric car. So they really are pushing forward with this. And of course, people are wondering, will China kind of replace Tesla as the leader in green energy and electric car community? So let's break down the positives and negatives about this story. Of course, before that, I want to remind you that this channel and this video is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. There's a discount code in the description of this video. So go ahead and grab it so you can save yourselves a few bucks. All right, so let's talk about this story and what does it really mean for the community. Let's start with some positives. All right, so I think the story actually has a lot of positives. Well, obviously, any type of competition, any type of new technology, companies, people that are being injected in this community, it's good. Don't forget the electric car sales is still about 1 to 2% of all electric car sales. So there's a lot for us to still achieve. So all the new leaders are welcome, especially the ones that will be going global, like NIO and many other companies. So that is definitely a positive. Also, don't forget China is doing this out of, it's not a passion of theirs. They're doing it out of the need. A lot of their cities, as you probably see in the pictures where you can't really see the buildings, everyone's wearing masks. It really is a problem. So they are doing it out of a real need. And every time you do something out of the need, you usually are bound to succeed, or at least definitely go pretty far, where here we're all relying on one guy who has a passion for it, but at any point of time, if he wants to do something weird in the direction or do something different, he obviously can do it, and no one can stop him. So I like the fact that this comes out of the need. There's obviously, if you're developing something in China, there's less red tape to put the car on the market or build a factory very quickly. And then, as necessary, obviously these cars need to get up to all the strict regulations of California and North America and Europe. But they can still do that now. I actually have a pretty big confidence in that. And another positive is that don't forget, every time a startup create something, they can do it better than the legacy manufacturers that have been doing something very different, in this case, gas cars. So all these startups are really innovating, and as you guys probably know, I'm a huge fan of the NIO's battery swap, which I think Tesla should have never abandoned, because this is the fastest way to charge your car, right? We're all talking about the charging speeds. The superchargers, they're not that super. It still takes 45 minutes. That's why I decided to back down and have a Volt as my commuter car when I go long distance, even though I have to use a little bit of gas. But a swapping station is something that will finally, and they have quite a few of them now. I think about a dozen of operational ones. This is the only way how you can refuel your car just in the same amount of time as you can with your gas car. Also, don't forget, if anything, Elon Musk was on 60 Minutes just a few months ago, and it was not a positive vibe. It wasn't a positive segment. I think the positive from the segment that we just saw last weekend is that the segment was positive. It was about the new technology, about leading the world. Obviously, I wish it was United States, but whoever it is, I think that's definitely a tough pill to swallow for us. And hopefully Elon can get his stuff together, and I think he has been this year, mainly in the last few months. But NIO might just become one of the newer leaders, and China could be taking over for Tesla, if you ask me. And it's still a positive because we're getting a positive story out of it. But so let's go to the negatives. And I would say it's the same. The negative is that Elon Musk was perfectly fine leader. I really admired him. I thought he was doing such an amazing job until last year, where he just did and said so many weird things. My experience, as you guys know, with Tesla has been pretty bad, and now everybody's catching on to the same thing, customer service. And so to me, the negative is that I feel like we're losing a great leader, and we're losing it to a country. And don't forget, this is a communist country. They have their own political sort of agendas. They're not always in line with the ones from North America and or European countries. There's always a tariff war going on, and right now it's heating up once again. So whenever we're going into politics with something like this, it definitely worries me. So I'd say a communist country becoming a leader over someone like Elon Musk, that there are some concerns. And obviously anytime it's a Chinese company, and then the company is producing sort of the product sort of unsupervised. It's I hate to use that word, but nevertheless, there are some labor law issues still, and just child labor also, and I know we kind of forget about it, but it's still there, right? I really hope that this kind of brings this issue to the forefront, and maybe even the companies that do make their stuff in China um, kind of get up to speed, and kind of meet some of, at least if not legal but ethical ramifications of using the labor in a country like China. So yeah, I mean, but overall, I mean, I was excited to see this as once again a story in on 60 Minutes, on mainstream TV, if you will. I'm definitely looking forward to your comments. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think this is good or bad for the industry if China would be taking over for Tesla? By the way, I also want to make sure that I acknowledge one of my newer Patreons. Jörg, thank you so much for joining my Patreon community. This is the only place where you can watch me live. And thank you for all of you, all of my Patreons, for supporting this independent YouTube channel. If you want to join my community, there's a link in the description of this video. So thank you to all of you guys who've been supporting me and will support me in the future. All right, looking forward to your comments. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.